Hello, everyone, and welcome back for the second episode of G's Corner. As always, it's a pleasure to be your host of this production by Collaboration Studios. Today's podcast is the first podcast into our series called Your Pot of Coffee Phase 1. Now, if you remember from the last episode, or if you're just now tuning in to G's Corner, our mission is to provide you a founder's point of view. Each podcast is going to show you firsthand these invaluable lessons, whether it is the tools that provided my awakening to how we take care of ourselves or how we run our business. Our mission is to provide these resources with a first-hand account so you feel more comfortable in creating your own unique life path. Now, again, here's the rules and here's how it will work. Each podcast series produced will again provide a first-hand experience of what to expect as you see my personal sessions with our guests of these series. We will then provide a link to the guest services where you can set your own appointments. It is also important for you to know we do not make any money from your purchasing of services from our guests. This way, you know it is an unbiased opinion and you're not being sold another bag of goods. Now, without further ado, it is my distinct honor to introduce our guest for today's podcast, Cecilia Grace Butler. Cece is a visionary artist, energy healer, hypnotherapist, author, public speaker, and personal friend. Her book, The Akashic Librarian, gives great insight into our first episode of this series, Akashic Intuitive Reading, Building the Foundation. And hello again, Cece, and thanks for joining us today.
Yes, this is great. Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, the world you come from, and sort of how you started, where you are, and where you're going.
Sure. So I entitled my book The Akashic Librarian because professionally I was a reference
Wow.
librarian for about 25 years. So when I trained for library work, the internet hadn't been invented.
Now, guys, if you could imagine living without the internet, I don't know if you can, but Cece and I have been there, and it was a different world.
But so I did that for 25 years, and that was in New Jersey. And
Hmm.
I worked in a very, very large public library system. And I was, well, they used to refer to the
Okay.
reference librarians as the brainiacs. So we all hung out together at the the reference desk together. After I retired, and I moved to North Carolina, I started to explore
Hmm.
more spiritual aspects of myself. And I
Wow.
became a Reiki master, a yoga instructor, um,
Very good.
and then
Very
began
nice.
to go into the hypnotherapy. And then in 2012, I
Yeah.
had a spiritual awakening, I guess we could call it that. It was during the
Okay.
month of December of 2012. And if you recall,
That's
everybody on
right.
TV was saying it was going to be
That's
the
right.
end of the world. The Mayan calendar basically died then. And everybody thought, oh, well,
Oh,
maybe a comet is going to come here and crash or something like that. But,
mhm.
but for me, what happened was I
Mhm.
was awakened in a dream in the middle of the night,
Wow.
and I was told to go to Santa Fe, New Mexico. So I kept arguing, with the dream makers. I kept saying, why am I supposed to go to Santa Fe? But it turns out I actually knew someone from high school who was living there. And we had recently reconnected and we were
Mhm.
talking on the phone. So I said, okay, maybe this isn't such a weird thing. So I literally got up from that dream and
Mhm.
got the plane tickets. And I went there during the month of
Okay.
December before Christmas in 2012. And while I was there,
Mhm.
I don't know if it was just the energy of that place agreed with me, whatever, but I just kept meeting these most amazing people and having the most synchronistic experiences.
Santa Fe. Yeah. How long did you stay there for? How long did that occur for?
The first time I just
Okay.
stayed for like maybe 4 or 5 days. I'll tell you the story of how I got back if you want, real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Okay, so I came home and so just prior to that, I had
Mhm.
reestablished a painting practice. I had majored in art history in college, but I really didn't do much actual painting. Art
Yeah.
history is the study of the history of art, not so much the practice of it. But I had been painting
Yeah.
landscapes and a few little flowers and things like
Mhm.
that. But once I came back from Santa Fe, I painted a painting of a place that I went to in Santa Fe.
Mhm.
It was a spa retreat, and it was at Christmas time, and they had those
Mhm.
little
Mhm.
lamps, the bags with the lights in them.
Oh.
So everything was golden and it was beautiful. And so I painted that painting and I sat with it every morning with my coffee
Okay.
and with the intention of going back to Santa Fe for a longer period of time. And
Mhm.
eventually, it took me a while, it took me about 3 years. But what was weird about it was during that time I was focusing on it. I would see cars that were
Mhm.
Santa Fe cars. It was always at one intersection in my town. And at the
Hmm.
stoplight, it was always a Santa Fe car in front of me. I went to a yoga studio and the girl offered me a cup of tea and she passed me a
Yeah.
cup and it said Santa Fe
Wow.
on the cup. It turned out she had been there too, obviously. And so I think I call them angel messages,
Yeah.
basically.
Stay disciplined to what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and I was
Mhm.
like, I had a friend, we called it the miracle a day. And I would call her at the end of the day and tell her my miracle, and she would tell me hers. And eventually, I had people who showed up at my townhouse. They rang the doorbell. I lived in a neighborhood where they were still building. And these people said, "We're looking for a place to stay. And while our house is being built, would you be interested in subletting your townhouse?" And I went, "Oh, yeah." So they rented it with
Wow.
everything, dishes, everything. And that, what they were willing to pay me, paid for my trip to Santa Fe, plus my
Mhm.
money that I needed to, keep the townhouse. And they wanted it for three
Perfect.
months. So I went to Santa Fe for 3 months.
So you'd say even on your own journey, CC, it's interesting how it kind of interweaves, right? Most of the time instead of being direct.
Exactly. I think once you make the call, basically. You say it out loud, you write it, you somehow say, "This is what I want." You tell the universe, "This is what I want." They, behind the scenes, work their way to put it together for you. I could have never planned those people coming to my house. There's no way I
Absolutely.
would have known that there would be those people who would rent my house
Yeah.
that would allow me to go back there for that amount of time. So I think that's the first clue if you're starting on a spiritual journey and you're
Hmm.
trying to connect with spiritual assistance. The first thing you have to
Yeah.
do is express your desire. Really, write it somehow, put it out, say it
Beautiful.
over and over again. And I just
Showing
kept
how
doing
true
that, and it worked.
manifestation with intent and then
Yep.
everything behind it
Yeah.
can lead to it.
Yes. And then the best part of that
Hmm.
story, remember
Yeah.
the painting was of the Christmas spa, right? I went back there,
Wow.
and then guess what? It was
So
Christmas time again.
mm,
When I got there, yep, the
wow.
synchronistic
And
timing was
then
I went back at Christmas again.
very
And
cool.
this
Now how
time
long did
I
you
got
stay
to
this
stay
time?
for
Just the three
Christmas.
months, is that right?
3 months. And
Very
I
cool.
I
So you
have
sort
been
of
back for yoga
started out in the
retreats since.
yoga,
Yeah.
then ended up in Santa Fe where the
Mhm.
painting and the synchronicities and you're really starting to see it play forth.
Mhm.
What happens after that? Like, do you go back to North Carolina?
Mhm.
Or, where do you go
Mhm.
from there?
There was one other important thing that happened in Santa Fe. So prior to that trip, I was painting and weird things started to happen. That whole December, between November and December. And I was painting a painting and I was just playing with paint. I wasn't trying to paint
Mhm.
anything. I put the canvas on the
Okay.
ground. I poured like liquid paint and then I poured
Hmm.
gold and silver liquid paint and I shook it up and my daughter was visiting with me then, and I put it in my sunroom and I was going to let it dry. And about 20 minutes later, I heard my daughter go, "Mom, Mom, something's weird
Mhm.
here. I said, what are you talking about? She says, come look at your painting. And what had happened was it all
Huh.
flowed together and a figure showed. And the figure was a
Wow.
full blown angel
Okay.
apparition. The picture's in my book. Yeah, I'm getting chills. Even as I'm telling you the story right now, the hair on my arm is standing up. I started saying, "Oh my God, what
Mhm.
is this? I'm painting with angels? How could that possibly be?" You know. Um, when I got to Santa Fe, I told my friend who I was staying with, I said,
Mhm.
weird stuff is happening with me. And I showed him the picture that was on my phone that I'd taken of the angel, the apparition. And he goes, "Oh, that's not weird here. In Santa
Yeah.
Fe,
Right.
that's the norm." I'm going, "Really?" He said, "My neighbor paints angels too." And I'm like, "For real?" He called her and he said, "Hey, I have a friend. She's painting angels." And the woman was so sweet. She said, "Come over for dinner
Wonderful.
tomorrow night." And it was great. I went to her house. I showed her the picture. And she said to me, "Well, you qualify
Wow.
for a tour of my art studio." And she had a studio behind her house, and when you got into the studio, it overlooked
Mm.
the mountains in Santa Fe. The sunset was coming down, and she described
Mm.
her. She went into a trance. This is how she did it. She
Mm.
had a big podium, and she put brown paper on it, and she would close her eyes, and she had watercolors, and
Mm.
she would just move with the energy that she felt. And when she was done, she would open her eyes, and there would be the form of angels on
Oh
the paper.
goodness.
When they were put up, they were like 12 feet long. So she would add the gold, she would add the silver, and
Mm.
her art studio was filled with these angel paintings. So she said to me, "Well, you can stay here since you qualified for a tour. You can stay here, and I'll come back in about 20 minutes or so." I think she said
Correct.
22 minutes because that was like a magic angel number. Well, I sat there, and the energy in that room with those
Mm.
paintings was unbelievable. I mean, I started
Yeah.
crying. I couldn't help it. It was just, it took my breath away. And I mean, I've traveled, I've been to Europe, I've
Mm.
been to St. Peter's, yeah, I've been to a lot of places, and I've been in museums and
Yeah.
churches with artwork, majored in art history. But I never had an experience like that where I felt
Mm.
like the room was filled with some kind of angelic force.
Mhm.
Your question was when I left Santa Fe, how did that affect me? And it was life changing, really. And I just started painting visions, things that were happening to me during this time frame. And then I began to talk to other people. I was a Reiki practitioner, so I would do healings on people,
Mhm.
and they would describe what was going on in their third eye and their
Mhm.
mind while they were having the Reiki treatment. And I would say, "Hey, let me write that down." And I would paint the painting afterwards of what they had seen because I wanted them to remember it. You know, it's like a dream.
It's true.
You wake up from a dream, if you don't write it down, you forget it, right? So having the painting was a
Mhm.
reminder that they had actually had a spiritual
Wow.
experience
Wow.
while they were having the Reiki.
You were learning how to make your own pot of coffee, right?
Yeah.
And you were taking each of these steps.
And that was a pretty high vibe kind of coffee. Believe me, I had no idea.
I can relate to that. Some high octane coffee coming coming through the spout.
Very high octane. I had no idea this was
Yep.
going to happen to me. I had no inkling whatsoever, except that when I had
Mhm.
been a
Mhm.
librarian, I would have synchronistic things happen while I was on the reference desk. I told you this before we were talking. One Christmas I remember a woman came. This was way before the internet. A woman approached the reference desk, and she was trying to find an old Italian recipe that her mother had done for Christmas, and she had lost the
Mhm.
recipe, and she had hoped that we could maybe put it together. And
Right.
again, this was before the internet. We couldn't just Google the recipe. So I took her down the cookbook
Mhm.
aisle, and I noticed that a book had fallen off the shelf and it was on the floor open. And when we got there, I looked down and the book was open at a recipe which matched exactly what she was looking for.
Synchronicity at its finest, I'd say.
Yes, I call that my library theory of magnetism. Yeah.
And that's a chapter in your book too, right?
There is a chapter in my book about that. And other synchronistic things that happened while I was working at the library.
Absolutely. So leading from Reiki, so yoga to painting to Reiki, where does the Akashic Library, like where does the Akashic Records come in, and how does that start?
Okay, how did Akasha come? Well, that's full circle. And when you're making coffee for yourself in your life, I think you'll start to notice that rather than a straight line, you'll see it be zigzag, and then all of a sudden you'll connect, and you'll say, "Oh my
Yep.
gosh, I just came back, to where I started." I heard about the Akashic through another healer, and she wanted to go to a training, and it was in Raleigh, which is about a 2-hour drive from where I live. And she asked me to accompany her. And I really didn't know that much about the Akashic, but I thought, hey, yeah, it's a weekend. Let's go, right? For fun. And when I got there, I found out the instructor. So there was a book written by a woman named Linda Howell on the Akashic, like how to tap into the Akashic records. And the trainer was one of her proteges. And the way she explained it was the Akash is an etheric library. It's mentioned in the Bible as the book of life. It's mentioned in Revelations. I heard somebody on the radio talking about, gave a quote from Revelations today. A lot of people are talking about Revelations right now because they're taught that book in the Bible talks about end times. And again, going back to December 12th, 2012, that was the end of the Mayan calendar. So, was end times just 1 month, or was it opening up a period of time that we're experiencing now? So in Revelations, what it said about the reference to the Akashic was that you would be judged on your life and whatever you do in your life. So in the Akashic, every word, thought, deed of this life or any previous lives or any parallel lives or any other kind of experiences, maybe even not human life, is recorded. Universal field. If you're familiar with the intuitive named Edgar Cayce, he was known as the sleeping prophet back during the 1930s. He was pretty well known. In Virginia Beach, there's the ARE that exists now called the Association for Research and Enlightenment, and that's based in that. There's the biggest metaphysical library in the United States, and it has thousands and thousands of readings that Edgar Cayce did, and the Akashic field is what he tapped into. He primarily got medical information, intuitive medical information, and helped people, but he also did readings for presidents, movie stars. So that's basically the Akash. And I was told by spirit guides that all the time I spent as a reference librarian was actually in preparation for working in this bigger field of data and information. But I learned how to research, and that was the skill that I really needed. So I had the library skill, the training with master's degree in library science, years of experience, spiritual awakening, visionary. The visionary part gave me the ability to communicate with the lords of the records, who are the librarians that manage all of that. So without opening my third eye and having all those visionary experiences, I wouldn't have been able to tap into the Akashic because I wouldn't have been able to see it.
You gotta love how the little thing, and pulls it all out, right?
See how it goes.
So everybody, that's the full circle.
That's the full circle.
And for us to bring it full circle, everybody, we are going to tap into my Akashic readings today with Cece. We have come up with some questions already, and Cece's helped me. Language is always key, and Cece will say that when you're asking questions and what you're wanting to know. So I'm going to let Cece take over as far as what an opening session should look like with a reader like Cece, and I'm just going to let her take over from here.
When I was first trained to do the Akashic, I learned the process as Linda Howell taught it, and that was using a prayer. And she had a prayer that you repeated, and I did that. And then I kind of streamlined the prayer. A couple of years ago, I was with another practitioner who does the same thing. And it was actually on Easter. And interesting, we're coming into Easter week now. And we both opened our records and we said, hey, isn't there an easier way to do this to just open up the records without going through this mumbo jumbo and lighting
Mm-hmm.
candles and blah, blah, blah. And then, so what we got was a symbol.
Yeah, could you put it a little closer, CC, and to the go the other direction?
I'll show you. This is my notes here. You can see the little triangle. Can you see it? A little
There's the
closer.
triangle above my
Yeah.
name, everybody, with the arrow
Right
above
there.
it, and
Yeah.
look,
Can you see?
yep,
Mm-hmm. And the A is
yep.
for the Akash. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on my website. So what I do now is
Mm-hmm.
I draw the sigil to represent the Akashic, and I put the name of the person underneath of it. I put my hand on it. I take my breaths,
Mm-hmm.
and I can
Very
tell. I get like a little tingling in the top of my head. That means okay, go with it. I mean, I've been doing this for quite a few years now, so it comes much easier. When I first started doing this, I had to have a totally black room. I would put on an eye mask.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to really, really focus on seeing, what was being presented. But eventually it gets a little easier. So the first question that I'm going to ask is, because he kind of gave me a heads up of some things he wanted to know. So the first question is, what could help Graham to move closer to be in perfect alignment with his higher self and to be doing the work that would be in his highest and best interest? I think I've rephrased it that way.
Correct.
He worded it as a yes and no question, and I explained to him that when you do that, you get a yes and no answer. So you want to ask the question so that you get knowledge, you get information. An open-ended question, basically, not a closed-end. Okay, so what I got was that right now, Graham's working to develop new processes, which is good, but to do the spiritual aspect of it, he still needs to kind of get his bandwidth expanded. And they suggested taking early morning walks or meditations and really setting aside connecting time as a priority. And that you could use this Akashic symbol yourself. I'm giving you the energy to do it. See, there's like an energy molded into the symbol. It's like Reiki. If somebody receives a Reiki symbol, it's not just a drawing, it's the frequency of Reiki. And so I'm offering you the frequency of the Akash so that you can do this yourself. And I teach people how to do it too. But I'm finding that if I just offer it and you put your hand on it, many people are able to just tap into it. And so my purpose is to tell people that such a field of energy and information exists and that it's possible for us to tap into it now. The Akashic was closed for many, many eons because humanity used it for not such good purposes. So humanity had to raise their vibration and level in general to a higher quality so that the riffraff would stay out, basically. Or else, you can go into the records, and if you ask stuff that's just for your own personal gain, like what are the winning lottery tickets? I mean, they might tell you once or twice, and then your library card's taken away and you're not able to do it anymore. So anyway, there's a certain level of quality in your questions that you want to ask. As I was saying to you, I mean, I took that time with the meditation to go to Santa Fe. I had a dedication. I stated what I wanted. I had a dedication to it and a commitment. And that's what I got for you too, that if you want to be able to have guidance, an easier way to have guidance on a daily basis, that walking or sitting, in quiet meditation for 4 to 6 months, which really isn't, an enormous amount of time, that you will start to notice.
Absolutely. And everybody meditates. Oh, sorry. And I just wanted to chime in, everybody, that I already do meditate, but really what Cece and I were talking about was the intent and the dedication each morning to set aside that time, because though I meditate every day, it doesn't have it at the same time, not the same type of regimen. So I just wanted to add that in, Cece.
Yeah, I think you will see an enormous breakthrough if you do that. I asked about your soul purpose, and they showed me that as you're doing this meditation commitment, that would be revealed to you gradually. They use the word unraveled. They also showed me that it's not going to be shown in a linear way. It's more going to be in a zigzag. Like you might catch
Mhm.
one thing and then something else that's not necessarily built on the first thing.
You
But
may-
just as I told you about my story, I made full circle. So eventually you take all these little pieces. It's like doing a 1,000-piece puzzle. And you put the last
That's right.
piece in and you go, oh my God, there it is. It's a castle.
Mhm.
So I think the thing is, don't get frustrated if
Absolutely.
you're not able to figure out the puzzle immediately. They also told me that you already took a really big step by leaving a 9 to 5 job and opening up your life and your world to a way of making abundance and
Exactly.
a living that served humanity more than a 9 to 5 job. That was a
Yeah.
big thing.
Boy, boy, it is like that.
That's like saying, Jesus, take the wheel, because here I come.
It is a leap of faith. It is, everybody, without question.
Yeah, it is a leap of faith. So I
Mhm.
asked, what words would describe the attributes that you would need to meet your soul purpose?
Mhm.
And the things that I were given were communication, organization, personal growth, and dedication to the truth. Now, here comes the surprise part. uh, I asked finally,
Yeah.
and I do this with clients a lot. This is how I got started with mine. I mean, I did my own personal Akashic research for a year. I didn't tell anybody what I was doing because I thought they might think I had lost my mind, first of all, and they wouldn't understand it.
No, everybody thinks you've lost your mind. Trust me, everyone already thinks we've lost our minds. So it's just whether they're ready to hear it or not. There goes Graham. He's off on a kicker. He's off his rocker. Yeah.
Oh, there she goes again. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
we've all
Mhm.
had, all of us are healers or intuitives or, tarot readers or whatever. We've all been condemned for
Mhm.
doing this stuff in past lives. So you're careful. I did it for a solid year. And so the second half of my
Mhm.
book is what I discovered about myself in that year and my past lives and how what I learned in those lives I'm tapping into and using those skill sets now. So I
Mhm.
asked to be shown a life where you excelled with these skills that you will need to develop to meet
Mhm.
your goal in this life of your soul purpose. Now the visual part comes. A Roman times, I saw a gladiator in
Mhm.
an
Mhm.
amphitheater, an
This is.
arena, and it felt like
Mhm.
it was a Christian gladiator who was being, the lions were coming out after him. He was being tortured or condemned for being Christian. But what I got was that
Mhm.
he had been a Roman soldier, and this was during the time of Christ. He had been a Roman soldier, and due
Mhm.
to a experience, he switched to say
Yep.
he was Christian, and he believed he was Christian, and that's how he got condemned to the arena with the lions. How does those qualities of that man compared to what you're developing now
Mhm.
are dedication to the truth and willing to
Sure.
stand in your beliefs no matter what. I mean, in that
Okay.
life, there was a willingness to die to demonstrate faith. I always ask, because when I was doing my own
Do
research,
not.
I would ask, is there a name? Can this person be revealed? Is there a name that would go on with it?
Okay.
This was weird. This has never happened before. They said to me, it rhymes with
Mhm. Mhm.
Romulus. What's Romulus? Romulus and Remus, I don't know if you know this mythological story, but they were twins who were
Correct.
supposedly established the Roman Empire. Okay. So that to me, when I got Romulus, that said to me, okay, you're on the right track with the Roman times. However, in researching this, so I did do this reading prior to but I kept this part quiet to you. But I did a
Hmm.
quick little library research, and this is what I love to do when I get a name or something. I like to try to figure it out.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
found a gentleman named Lingulis, rhyming with Romulus. Lingulis met all the specifications of what I just described to you. He was a Roman soldier who turned against the Roman Empire and became a gladiator. But he
Mhm.
was present at the crucifixion. Now, here's where I'm not sure that you were the specific person, Linguist. I think you were among the other Roman soldiers, and Linguist was the closest name they could give me to display what you were doing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's starting to
So
feel a
they told
little.
me it rhymes
Yeah.
with Romulus, it's Roman. I find Linguist is the Roman soldier who speared the
Yeah.
last spear into Jesus before he died. Now, again, I'm not saying that was exactly you. Don't feel sick about it because the story ends with a happy ending. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I think that the soldiers, apparently, many of them actually, were overwhelmed by the experience of the witness of the death of Jesus, and that it caused them to realize that there was more to this than what people thought. They thought he was a hoax. They thought, yeah, we're just, he's just another robber or something. He's going to be killed off with all the other robbers, right? Apparently, later on, there were many, many soldiers who turned against the Roman Empire and were killed in just the same way.
Correct. And I've been through some of them with regressions.
You were there during this time. You witnessed something. I'm not going to say exactly what it was,
Absolutely.
but I think it was to wake you up. So why was that life, my question is always this, why was that life shown? You've had thousands of lives, probably. Why was that life shown at this time? Well, I asked the question, show me the life that impacted the most on this soul to what he needs to do now. So let's
Correct.
go full circle again.
Correct.
If this is the end of times, if we have agreed to come here at this time to help people with the end of times, if you're a healer, that's probably why you're here. If you have a strong Christ consciousness connection, which is really the energy of Christ, it's not necessarily he's coming back to walk with sandals and a robe through New York City, right?
Yep.
It's the power of Jesus. It's the frequency of Jesus. It's knowing, you know, when you go to church, you feel Jesus in your heart. He's not standing there, but his energy and his vibration is there.
Yeah.
Why would you come back now? Well, you were
Sure.
there when Christianity was seated, and you're returning now for the blooming. And the blooming is the ascension part.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And
why shouldn't you be here now? You paid your price of being there during the foundational part of it. And of course you would want to come back. And it could be a bit of a karma thing too. If you had been there as a judge of Jesus and then you took Jesus's, Christianity as your faith, then coming back is full circle, isn't it?
Yep.
Right. So how does that all fit into what you're to do now? Well, I got that the Archangel Gabriel is your main angel right now.
Yep.
And that angel is in charge of communications, check, and writing, check. So that's what you're embarking on now. This is a different method of communication and disseminating information, but it's a broader way to get the message out. You stood as a martyr for it, but in this situation, you're going to support healers and those who want to spread this energy. I thought, the communications and the truth, isn't that a perfect thing, right? You stood for the truth. You saw that that was the truth, and now you're still standing in power of that.
It is, Cece, and it lines up with shaman sessions and past life regressions and soul retrievals that I've had in the past, and that's the beautiful part, everybody. And that's the beautiful part. CC has never been told anything that has gone on from the past.
Well, share if you want.
Yes, absolutely. Here comes Pandora out of Pandora's box, right? So, everybody, she is right. One of those past lives was a Roman soldier, took in many lives. And I had to go back and pay homage to those things to be released from what I've done in the past. So, for instance, you can have that going on when you're doing this type of work.
Mhm.
Like Cece said, is it carries through our cells with us. It drops in on a soul level. It's an everything all combined
Mhm.
kind of level. And then finding all this out. So during my awakening, 2012, just like UCC, coming around that corner.
We're the graduating class of 2012.
We are the graduating class of 2012. And God bless all of us because it was a year,
True.
right? And
Yeah.
I'd gone to see a shaman, my Aunt Beth, who you're very familiar with and who the audience will
Mhm.
get to meet later on, took me
Mhm.
to a wonderful woman named Beth Abernathy. Never had any of this work done before. I've never seen a shaman. And honestly, I was very skeptical. Um,
Yeah.
but, but in my aunt's defense, I saw her help heal my grandmother. I saw her and Liggett Cato in the 90s do things that
Mhm.
you just look at and go, and my grandmother had cancer, was dying.
Mhm.
They put a electromagnetic field around her room,
Right.
got rid of all the negativity. So context is I've seen it work. So walking into
Mhm.
that shaman, it was kind of like 50-50. And
So if I could just stop you for 1 minute,
sure,
the shaman didn't heal your grandmother. The shaman
no,
provided
thank you.
sacred space for your grandmother's higher self to come in and heal herself.
So that is correct. And the shaman
Mhm.
wasn't involved with my grandmother. Liggett was
Mhm.
more the person that knew how to make the frequencies work to heal you.
That's
Um,
it. You have to
that's
move your body into a higher frequency so it
yeah,
resets into healthy. Yes.
exactly. The shaman, for me, going to see the shaman that was the part where I was going 50-50. Like, what is this?
Oh, okay.
Kind
Gotcha.
of Looney
See,
Tunes,
I
but
didn't know the story.
I know. So it's a beautiful part to share, right? It's where we get to go in, and you'll probably get tinglings as I start. And I was like, well, what a perfect surprise,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Beth came out of the session with us, and she revealed to me who I was as a soul purpose. I am the angel of charity. My soul presence is to bring
Mhm.
that here and to develop that charitable foundations and
Mhm.
interstates and highways for people to raise their vibration, kind of like a ring bearer or a light bearer almost in a sense. And it took a lot for that to process. I mean, you have somebody telling you
Mhm.
pretty much energetically you sit at the right hand of the Father, and you're sitting here going, okay,
Right.
right, that's a lot to take home.
It
And
is, and I'm getting chills. And light workers are there are thousands and thousands, maybe millions and millions, I don't know, on earth right now, and our job is to anchor that Christ energy.
amen, that's exactly
Yeah.
right, that's exactly right. And man, over those next 2 years, CC, and it took me a while again to believe it, to see it.
Mhm.
But like with you and Santa Fe, it's when you put on those magic glasses and you start on that trip, you can't take them off.
Mm-mm. It's addictive. It's like, here I come.
So, guys, that's my one caveat. If I've got a little side note, yeah, if Cece and I've got a little side note, it's like once you put the magic glasses on, they don't come off. There's
Mm-mm.
no
You
going
can't.
back.
You
You
can't
can't.
do it
You
because
can't.
there's no life without it. After you've
Yep.
experienced it, it's like,
Yep.
well, why would I want to live that dull life without the glasses on?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Oh.
when you can really start to see things manifesting right before you in a real time
And you
scenario,
have the power to do it. That's the thing. You could turn the switch.
you can
What?
turn the yeah, right, like turn the light on people. And
Yeah.
that is the charitable essence I am here to do, is to show everyone we are all equal. You just got to turn
Mhm.
on your own light. This
Mhm.
podcast is to be like a guide or maybe that one little spark you need, or the one thing you may have needed to
Mhm.
hear that
Right.
puts those glasses on for you.
You
Or
might have had a prophetic dream yourself and kind of said, nah.
oh yeah, I mean, you're just like, that can't be real. Me,
Mhm.
doing this, and I'm grateful for all the tools that have shown itself since 2012. Diving into this with you, I think gives people a great starting point, CC. A great,
I hope so.
if you've got
That's my sole
questions,
purpose.
exactly right, as you said. So,
Mhm. We're so much bigger than what we think. Our
absolutely,
history is so much more than what we think. We're so
yep,
more powerful than what we think. We
absolutely,
we put ourselves in teeny, teeny, tiny little boxes and say that's all there is. But once you kind of knock the lid off the box, like you said, the Pandora's box,
yep,
and you start to experience like miracles happen, it's like, whoa, this is amazing.
hmm
And and then it really becomes real.
it
And
is.
your vision of who you are, it's not ego.
No,
It's not, oh my God, I was that.
yeah,
Because for every super wonderful, be Queen of England kind of life,
yep,
you also were the pauper.
yep.
Because that's the way it works. Yeah.
Lived every one. Yeah, that's the way it works. Like you've experienced the worst of worst, and you've experienced the highest of highs at some
And
point.
that's the school that we live in on Earth. It's
Yeah,
here for lessons, and it's
hmm
tough.
yep,
It's
and
very tough. I've heard from people who you know, many intuitives, that only the souls who are really roll up your sleeves and really want to get into the dirt of it will come to Earth. This is not an easy place to live and experience life.
it is not, but it can be, and I hope that
And
that's
it's getting better,
and
and
it's
that's
getting
why
there.
we're here. We're
And that's
here
why
to
we're
flick
here.
the switch
Yep.
so it will be better. And those of us are like the ones who woke up in 2012. Okay, we had the hits first, um, but more people are going to be waking up. And the fact that we went through it a little early
Mhm.
is actually to their benefit because there are people to help guide them too.
Guide them, and
Yeah.
it's not going to take as long as it used to. CC, there's
No, it
not
took me
time for
10
that.
years to get to this point.
Yeah,
The
right, right.
next crew,
Yeah, the next crew's not going to have. It's not. It just doesn't. Time is of
no,
the essence, and
exactly. It's
it
going to
is.
go rapidly. Once the 100th monkey hits, it's like done.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Mm.
Well, Cece, thank you for your time today. Would we like to close the book?
Yes, literally closed. So the records are now closed, and the records are, amen, the records are now
Amen.
closed.
Amen.
Mhm. Yeah.
Amen. Well, everybody, we thank you for tuning in with Cece and I today. Cece, how do people find you?
I have a website. It's my name. It's CeciliaGraceButler.com. That's
Mhm,
CeceliaGraceButler
mhm.
dot com.
And guys, Cece and I do follow up with each other. I don't.
Mhm.
I think Cece would say that there's not a recommended schedule on follow up. Probably more of a feeling instead of
Mhm.
you
I
know.
wanted to say the book is on Amazon, so
Perfect.
my name, they can look up
Yep.
the Akashic Librarian
hmm
and they'll recognize my name as the author. Right. I mean, as far as readings go, it just depends on what your purpose is. If you're heavy and deep into a spiritual awakening and you want to have somebody as a guide to hold your hand,
Yeah.
then you probably want to have more contact with somebody who can, help you. If you're
Yep.
just curious, idle curiosity, that's
Yeah.
always fun too.
Very fun.
And they always show you just the life you need right at that time. There is no wrong with the Akashic records. If you're not ready to know
They won't tell you.
what I showed you today, so you knew you were a Roman soldier and you knew you had done some perhaps not nice things, but you
hmm
might not have known the actual details of that.
No, I didn't.
Mhm.
And for some previous, I've lived during the time of Atlantis. I was one of the guardians of Atlantis.
Oh,
And
see,
so
there's a whole soldier thing there.
there's a
Um,
whole, a protector, a soldier, a
mhm.
and that's lived throughout my whole life, even in this.
Yeah, but they revealed to me a little bit more, a little morsel more, because you're ready for it now.
Yep. Oh,
Hmm.
it's light speed time now, as they say.
It's
So
go time.
it's go time.
It
So
is go
everybody,
time.
thank you
Mhm.
again, CC. Her links to her
Thank
book,
you.
to the website will be in the summaries of the podcast and also on any social media for everybody to see. So until next time, everybody, thank you again, Cece. And next time we'll
Thank you.
be taking G's Corner on the road as we just start our interior design series. Thanks, everybody. Let's all rise together. See you,
Bye
Cece.
bye.
See
Mhm.
ya.